والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون وأوفوا بعهد الله إذا عاهدتم ولا تنقضوا الأيمان بعد توكيدها وقد جعلتم الله عليكم كفيلا إن الله يعلم ما تفعلون ولا تكونوا كالذين نقضوا غزلها من بعد قوة أنثاثا من بعد قوة أنثاثا تتخذون أيمانكم دخلا بينكم أن تكون أمة هي أربى من أمة إنما يبلوكم الله به وليبين لكم يوم القيامة ما كنتم فيه تختلفون ولو شاء الله لجعلكم أمة واحدة ولكن يضل من يشاء ويهدي
college ending like Trinidad and Tobago.
الله هو خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون ما عندكم ينفد وما عند الله باق ولنجزين الذين صبروا أجرهم بأحسن ما كانوا يعملون من عمل صالحا من ذكر أو أنثى وهو مؤمن فلنحيينه حياة طيبة ولنجزينهم أجرهم بأحسن ما كانوا يعملون صدق الله العظيم.
Really refreshing. Make note of very end of the week, the end of Friday afternoon. It's like going through a desert, all the heat and everything, to an oasis, the house of Allah. You sit down and you can listen to the Qur'an, you can actually feel it. The subhanallah is what what is the end of this? The word of Allah is the best words, mashallah, and we thank, and I like to say out front, I like to thank IDM and of course the Shaykh for honoring us and being able to come. So we at Babu Jamaat, are happy that IDM has chosen us as a venue to partner with them in hosting the Shaykh here. Maybe just quickly what it is we're doing tonight. We will learn the recitation of Qur'an. We'll have a lecture by our Shaykh. You leave 10 minutes. This is some of the idea I would like to share. Then we will have, words of gratitude. We break, go for the salah. Then afterwards there is a dinner, inshallah, for us all. That's the size of what we're doing tonight, inshallah. For those who are coming for the first time, for the sisters, the washroom is through that door on my left. Then the right through there, you take a right. And for the brothers, it's on the right hand side, the same side, then washroom on that side. Alhamdulillah, if it is that you need something to drink, we have coffee and tea, but avail yourself, inshallah. Dr. Abdullah Hakim was born in the United States of America. He accepted Islam in Canada in 1970. He graduated from the Islamic University of Medina in 1979. He later completed a master's degree and a doctorate in African history at the University of Toronto, Canada. Shaykh Abdullah has served as Imam, teacher, and a counselor in the United States, Canada, and in the West Indies. Told it just now, I met him in Barbados many years ago. He has traveled to over 60 countries to do lectures and research and educational tours. He's currently the senior lecturer with the Islamic Institute of Toronto. Those of you go to Canada, you know the IIT. He's a senior lecturer with the institute. Alhamdulillah, we only have 1 hour, and I think that should be sufficient. Let the Sheikh go to what he has to do, and let me tell you who he is. You can Google him, mashallah. So it is my pleasure to introduce and to hand the mic over to our dear beloved Shaykh Abdullah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa usalli wa usallim ala sayyidil akhirin. Nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. All praise and due to Allah, Lord of the worlds, and peace and blessing be constantly showered upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad, the master and first and last, upon his family, his companions, and all those following his way, established Sunnah in the day of judgment. As to what follows, my beloved brothers and sisters, I begin with the greeting words of kindness. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, it is a great privilege and honor again to be with you here in Trinidad. And every time I come back to the region, it's like a homecoming for me. My grandmother, my mother's mother, left Barbados in 1930, and she settled in the United States, married an African American. My wife is Jamaican. Alhamdulillah, I lived in the region for over 4 years. I've been here many times. And every time I come back, there's an emotional thing for me, because it's like somebody coming home, especially coming in the month of January, when it's freezing in Toronto now. And I said to the brother, you know, we had a warm day. It was 5 degrees centigrade. People were taking their coats off. And so to be here in the tropics, and the rain is coming, and the sun, and to be back is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I believe that this really is the place that all human beings actually should live. Alhamdulillah, I want our session tonight to be a joyous session, to be a family-oriented session. But at the same time, I want to share with you some of the understanding that I got from traveling to over 63 countries, living in the Muslim world. And as a young new Muslim, very innocent, open-minded, traveling and meeting people, meeting the scholars, and trying to understand what is happening. And today it is so important for us to answer that question because we are coming out of the COVID-19 era, and people are returning to the masjids, returning to normal life, but the world again has changed. So we need to be adaptable. We need to have the wisdom to understand what is happening around us, to analyze this in the light of the last revelation, in the light of the Sunnah of the Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, to be able to set some framework for the continued spread of Islam, and hopefully our children can stay on the path. And so I want to first introduce this three-part series. This is the first part of three important understandings of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it came about really with the travel that I did. I'm just trying to understand the Muslim world. I don't know if everybody can see from over here, but I will tell you what is on the slide. Let's look at the background and why we are studying what we study. If you look at the Muslim world today, you will find that there is great potential in the Muslim. We make up over 26% of the Earth's population, and we are rising. And you'll be surprised to know that Islam is the majority religion on the African continent. I had the opportunity to live in South Africa for 10 years and to travel to 20 African countries. Islam, also the largest Muslim populations are not in Arabia, but in India, Indonesia. These are the largest Muslim populations. In Europe, you'll be surprised to know that the majority of people in Paris and Marseille who are 26 years old and under are Muslims. In Belgium, in Holland, 50% of the children born in the hospitals right now are Muslims. So why is this kept? We are rising. There are people still entering Islam. And so Allah blessed us with population. Allah also blessed us with natural resources. Over 50% of the valuable minerals of the world lie under Muslim countries. Our countries lie on strategic positions, strategic waterways, strategic mountain passes. We have young people. The majority of Muslims are young people. If you were to take all of the Muslims and put them on one field, you will find the majority under 20 years old. So we are a growing young population. We also have huge standing armies, hundreds and thousands of men at arms. We have a history, strong history of respect. Our sacred sources are still there, folks. The other religions cannot go back to their original source. So they have to continue to revise what they have. We are blessed with the original source. So even if somebody tries to change it, we can go back to the original to find out whether that person is telling the truth or not. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with great potential. But the question that I ask, and many young people are asking, with this great potential, with some of the richest people on earth, living in the Muslim countries. Many of you watched the World Cup and you saw Qatar and the standard of living on the UAE. But some of the richest people on the face of the planet Earth, why is it that we have some of the poorest people? That's a contradiction. With standing armies that we have, why is it that people are crying out, Marshal al-Aqsa in Palestine is still under attack? Muslims are still finding themselves at the brunt of Islamophobia. The scholars in many places spend their time arguing over minor points, furu', instead of dealing with usul, which are the principal points. And so this is the question. This leads to a type of frustration. And I looked in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What could Allah Azza wa Jal tell us? And in Surah Al-Hashr, verses 18 to 19, Allah Azza wa Jal tells us, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون ولا تكونوا كالذين نسوا الله وأنساهم أنفسهم أولئك هم الفاسقون. Allah tells us, O you who believe, have the consciousness of Allah, and that every soul look to what they put forward for tomorrow and fear Allah. Surely Allah is well aware of all that you do. Be not as those who forgot Allah, so He made them forget themselves. Surely they are the disobedient. So with the divine use of three letters, nasya, Allah said, لا تكونوا كالذين نسوا الله فأنساهم أنفسهم. You forget Allah, He will make you forget yourself. Your money will not be spent on the poor. Your armies will not liberate the oppressed people. This is a contradiction. And again I searched, how can we come out of this? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed to us in His mighty book, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah will not change the condition of a people till they change that which is in themselves. So there's something inside of us as individuals, our families, our Muslim world, is something that needs to go through a change. The internal Muslim, right to the heart. And today in Jumu'ah, I was discussing with the brothers and sisters the importance of sincerity. That in this year, 2023, the solar calendar, you could say it's a year of survival. We have to survive an onslaught of immorality. We have to survive an onslaught of the climatic change. And even here, we felt the floods. Imagine how it was like in Pakistan. Imagine what it was like in California right now, when the water is coming down. And so this is a year of survival, and in this year, we need to be sincere with Allah. One of the areas of this sincerity is sincerity to the book of Allah. We have to be sincere to the Qur'an itself. A great scholar of Islam, an African scholar, Sidi Ahmed Zalou, of the city of Fez. Many of you got to know the Moroccan team. People watch the World Cup. The Moroccans defeated the Spanish. They defeated the Portuguese. Who are the Moroccans? Sidi Ahmed Zalou, the great scholar of Fez, he said, if you want to be sincere to the book of Allah, you need three things. تحسين تلاوته وتدبر آياته واتباع أوامره. You must first perfect the recitation, beautify with technique, Secondly, tadabbur ayatihi, you must think about the verses, contemplate, reflect upon what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed. And finally, you need to implement this, put this into practice. This is the complete sincerity that we need. And Allah Azza wa Jal has given us so many examples in His book. Allah has given us parables of the prophets, parables of the creation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so merciful. And within the book itself, there is a lot of deep knowledge. So I want to extract some knowledge and reflect upon a very important section of the book of Allah, and that is concerning insects. I want to do something a little bit different now. The young people who are here, if you can you see the board there? You can see it? Okay, any young person who can't see it, then move over so you can see, because this is a visual presentation as well as just an audio presentation. We want to look at the miracle of the ant. And this takes us to Surah Naml, the chapter of the ant. Now you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed chapters using the name of insects. One of them is Surah Naml. And people before used to say, okay, that's interesting. But what about it? Let's look at the miracle of the ant. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed in His book, Surah Naml, verse 15. I'll do the translation, a little bit long of some of it, and read the Arabic of some. So Allah has revealed indeed we granted knowledge to Dawood and Sulaiman, and they said in acknowledgement, Alhamdulillah, all praise for Allah, who has made us excel over many of His faithful servants. And Dawood was succeeded by Sulaiman, who said, O people, we have been taught the language of birds and been given everything we need. This is indeed a great privilege. Sulaiman alayhi salam was given something no other prophet was ever given before. That is the ability to communicate with insects, to communicate with the jinn. No other human being has ever been given something like this before. And in the 18th verse, Allah told us, and when they came across a valley of ants, حتى إذا أتوا على واد النمل قالت نملة يا أيها النمل ادخلوا مساكنكم لا يحطمنكم سليمان وجنوده وهم لا يشعرون. This is the key point here. And it says, and when they came across a valley of ants, an ant spoke out and said, O ants, go quickly into your homes, so that Sulaiman and his army do not crush you unknowingly. So this is the shahid within this amazing chapter of the book. And when you look at it, right from the beginning, those who are speaking Arabic, they see right away, when it's speaking about the ant, it is saying, call it namlatun, female. Science has now shown us that the majority of the ants who are moving around all over the place that you are basically seeing are all females. They're not males. This is a miracle of the Qur'an. How could Prophet Muhammad ﷺ know that the majority of the ants are actually female? Why would the Quran? Because this is the book of Allah Azza wa Jalla. And so the ant, she was selfless. Imagine now the huge army is coming. Instead of just running away, she calls out to the other ants and said, go into your homes, go underground, go somewhere, so you will not get crushed. In other words, that ant was selfless. That ant was thinking about the other ants more than she thought about herself. And this is one of the important qualities that we need to understand about the ants. And this really came to me when I was living in Cape Town. And in Africa, Southern Africa, the ants are really aggressive. For some reason in Trinidad, I'm not seeing ants like I used to see. I don't know if they're using extermination or what it is, but I'm not seeing ants like I used to see. But in Africa, in Cape Town, in a middle class area, if you put down a piece of bread, in 15 minutes, there's a line of ants moving for the bread. One scout goes out and finds something, communicates it to the other, and suddenly they are moving in line. And one day I was doing dhikr, and I was sitting and I watched a line of ants going this way and the line going the other way. And when the ants were passing each other, they would not just go past, they would recognize each other. They communicate with each other. They don't communicate with their mouth, they have antennas. So they're in constant communication with each other. They are amazing creatures. As a matter of fact, we could say the ant is the most successful creature that has ever lived. This is a deep statement to me. It is the most successful creature. So there must be something about the ant that makes it successful, something why Allah would put the Naml inside of the Qur'an so that we could reflect, so that we could think about this and take lessons from the ants. There are over 12,000 species of ants. And they make up what is called scientifically 1/6 to 1/4 of the entire animal biomass. In other words, if you took all animals, living things, and you just put them all in a mass, 1/6 to 1/4 would be ants. That's how many ants there are in this world. But every human being, every one of us, there are 20 million ants. I don't know about Trinidad, where they went. Maybe they're underground. But there's 20 million ants for every human being. Think about this. The ants are so successful that they live in every single continent of the world except for one place. Anybody know without looking at the board where it is? Excellent, mashallah. Antarctica. I don't know why it's Antarctica. But Antarctica, there's no ants. Every single place in the world, China, Europe, Africa, India, the Americas, everywhere in the world, there are ants. And the ants, you know what's so interesting about them? And that is that a colony of ants can be about 10 million ants in a colony, but they will mix with other colonies and they can form what is called a super colony, which is billions of ants. Now, what is the miraculous thing about ants is that even though they are so much in number, they are one mind. All of the ants think together. So when one is thinking and communicating, there's a connection with the other ants within the colony itself. And so they function as one body. They communicate using their antennas. And I watch the ants in their communication moving around with each other. The scientists show that with their antennas, the ants can produce chemicals. And they can actually tell the other ants there's danger over here. They can even show the other ants through chemicals and through their communication how to get to the food. That's why suddenly there was a line going for my piece of bread so fast. Because they communicate. They have no cell phone. They have no mass communication, no walkie-talkie. But they communicate with instinct from Allah Azza wa Jal, naturally gave. And when you are in the ant colony, there is no rebellion in the colony. There is no Marxist, Leninist, the worker ants fighting against the bourgeoisie ants. There's no rebellion. As they would say, rebellion is futile. There is no rebellion. Because they live together. They learn to accept each other and move together as one body. And when the ants pass each other, that's one thing that I noticed. I look really close at this. Every time an ant crosses another ant, he stops with an antenna, she stops and gives salam. We would say give salam. When one ant is moving across and there's 3 ants, she gives salam to the first ant and then nods to the other 2. So she gave salam to the Amir of the Jamaat. And for the rest of the people in the Jamaat, she then nodded to the rest, because the Amir will then get across the salam. But they will not pass each other. Think about Muslims today. The Prophet ﷺ said the time would come when there would be a salam al-khas. There would be a specialized salam that people would only give to members of their family or members of their tribe. And we notice this so much in our communities. Here, our community is fairly tight in terms of ethnicity. In our masjids, you will have people from all over the world. On Eid Day, when people are supposed to be hugging each other as Muslims, they hug one person and then they look for someone else that looks like them. And then they give him salams and Eid Mubarak, and they look for their cousin or somebody else, passing other Muslims. That is what the Prophet ﷺ said, salam al-khas, specialized salam. He was telling us this in order that we would be more aware of other Muslims. The ants are extremely powerful. Extremely powerful. You know, one ant can lift 50 times his weight. One ant. This is what they would call a superhero. 50 times his weight. You can take 5 automobiles, 5 cars, and you can lift them all up if you have the power of an ant. But even though the ant has this power, they do not use their strength against each other. They use it only if somebody who is attacking the colony. And think about when we get a little bit of strength. We do a little exercise. We learn a little Arabic. We memorize a little Qur'an, and suddenly I want to start my own masjid. I want to have my own Jamaat. Because he thinks he has a little bit of power. The ants are the most successful creatures on earth. And Allah is pointing to us as Muslims. Why is this? And if you think about Muslims today in Trinidad, just alone, or if you look at us in other parts of the world, in Canada, if all the Muslims were united, we would be a powerful body. A powerful body. But when division is between one master, one community, one ethnic group, and another, then you're just a lot of different communities. But when you have what is called Ummah consciousness, the Ummah, the nation, when you have that consciousness, the ants have Ummah consciousness. There are all types of ants. There are male ants. Yes, there are males. And the drones, they just sit around and eat food and get the queen pregnant. There's the queen, who is the ultimate female. And the queen is special. Queen is special. And she is naturally the queen. She doesn't have to go to child school to learn how to be a queen, to walk in a certain way, to talk in a certain way. It comes natural. And all of the ants respect. In some colonies, they even found there are certain ants that have big claws. And they actually, they're like machinery. They lift heavy things. There are other ants whose bodies are really strong, and they are the ones who go to the front line if there is an attack. So there's all types of ants doing all types of activities, but yet and still, they work together. And you know what is one of the beautiful things about ants themselves? It's that teamwork, it's their character. The Prophet ﷺ said in authentic hadith, verily, I have been sent to complete the best in character. That's the essence of your Islam. It's not your beard, not your tone, it's not how tall your hat is, it's your character. You live as a Muslim. And the ants have this character. It's a beautiful quality. Imagine one ant can lift 50 times their weight, but yet they are polite with each other. An experiment was done with a group of ants in Argentina. You know Argentina too, they want to grow up there. An experiment was done in Argentina, and they made a maze. And they put the ants in the maze, so it has little lanes and corridors. And what they did, when you're going along a lane and they blocked it. You go another one, they blocked it. And they found out that the more difficult it became, is the more patient the ants became. Think about human beings. Think about us if you're in line and people get unruly and start fighting each other. We even experience this when we're on Hajj. It can happen with human beings, but the ants, the more difficult it came when they did this experiment, is the more polite they were with each other. Because they realized that their success is the success of the Jamaat. It's not just their own success, and being patient is an amazing thing. And you see amazing feats that ants can do. I want you to take some time, especially our younger brothers and sisters, but everybody, look up ants. They're amazing creatures that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made. This picture here, you can see that mass right there. That is going through a stream. This is all ants. They stuck together to each other, and they hung onto some wood, and they floated together as a Jamaat when the water was moving too fast. And because of that unity, they were able to cross the river in a way that they would not have been able to do if they were not united. The ants think positively. But sometimes even the ants get angry. And in one case, they evolve according to the situation. There was even an ant in America, in Texas. They said that ants are called ants, and that these ants were attacking electronic devices. They were attacking the computers. And the Americans had to make all kinds of poisons when they make the poison, the ant evolves and he defeats the poisons. They said it was the ant of all ants. It was an unbelievable experience that they were having and to show what the ants can do. So what is the lessons, some of the lessons for the Muslims today? Number one, the ants are in submission to Allah. They don't have to be trained, they function naturally. Excellent character, politeness, hard work, acceptance of each other. Think about these qualities. We need to workshop these. We need to show this to our younger generation. Selflessness. It is said that in the Battle of Mu'tah, when the Muslims were facing the Romans, and one of the Sahaba, radiallahu anhu, he was wounded and he was calling out. He was calling out for water. And they came to him, and then he heard his brother. And so he said, don't give it to me, give the water to my brother. And they went to the other one, he was calling out, and he went to the third person. And when they reached him, he had died, shaheed. They came to the second, he died, shaheed. They came to the first, he was shaheed. Selflessness. How do you think Islam spread so rapidly in the time of the Prophet ﷺ? In 100 years, Islam entered China, far north in the Caucasoid Mountains, deep south of the Swahili coast, all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. 100 years. Thinking in one mind. One mind. This is not easy. There may be some differences amongst us, but at the end of the day, we are all Muslims. We are the people of the Qibla. And we need to be able to look at each other for that which is similar instead of that which is different. So one of the things plaguing us, they'll look at somebody and say, look how he makes Salah. And he makes Salah a little bit different. He's a Maliki, he's wiggling his finger like this. He's wiggling his finger. And they're looking at him. I was in one country, I won't say which one it is, and the Imam read the Salat, so beautiful, Salat al-Maghrib, and I said, Ameen. I was the only one in the house. So when they finished, they said, where's that shaitan? Where is it? And they came to get me and they said, brother, why? I said, get Sahih al-Bukhari. And you will see that the Sahaba said, Ameen, so now it shook the building. So you have the right to be silent or the right to say aloud. All of it is allowable within Sunnah. See? That's what knowledge can do. And so, this unity that we need to have, I call it operational unity. And that is, we have Muslims from different schools of thought, we have different Islamic movements, but we need to have operational unity. We learn to work together. If there's a difference, we discuss amongst each other. If we disagree, then we agree to disagree. But we still love each other. And we still protect each other. That is the example of the ants. Thinking positive. When the Prophet ﷺ would send his people out on a journey, he would tell them, Bashiru wa la tunafiru, yassiru wa la tu'assiru. He would tell them, give glad tidings. Don't drive people away. Make it easy. Make the religion easy. Don't make the religion difficult. That is the original way how the Muslim would function and how Islam began to spread. And I want to read, there is a famous, in a poem, it said, courage isn't always a lion's roar. It's also the silence of ants working patiently, persistently, and never giving up. That is courage. To continue to work, to strive to overcome our differences, to think in one mind, to submit completely to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to take these examples, our Muslim world now has the potential to be the leaders of the planet. But if we continue as different ethnic groups of different, the rich and the poor, even different Islamic movements, then we will continue to be conquered by alien enemies who will have no mercy on us. And so I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would bless us to have this feeling and understanding of the acts. Pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would raise up in our younger generation those who can break down differences and those who can appreciate other Muslims and appreciate people of other faiths and nationalities as well, so that we can bring this world from darkness into light, so that we can survive in a tidal wave of immobility, which is surrounding us, a tidal wave of economic pressure. Everything is getting more expensive. It's getting more expensive in Trinidad too, right? Everything is getting expensive. But at the same time, there's some rich people, the top percentage of people are richer than anybody has ever been in the world. So this is where humanity needs to come together. And I believe that Muslims can lead this cause if we would take the lessons of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and put it into our lives. I leave you with these thoughts. I ask Allah to have mercy on me and you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
I'll take the mic to you.
Because of time, we want to open up the floor for any questions so we can be right in time. The Imam has been kind enough to give us a little extra time for Isha. But yes, any questions that anybody has floor is open.
I think it was instructed that one of the things that is shown in ayat the last two ayat was that it was a female ant who alerted the community to the dangers involved in climate and social comment. It shows therefore the importance of the sisters' role that they have to play in mobilizing, guiding the community.
That's right.
Something that we have lost. They got sisters now in the background. Their voices are not heard. They are not really, they're not giving authority and power and such. The Ummah has suffered because half of the population more comprised of females. So my question is, how do we address this situation? How do we empower sisters to be sisters like the female ant who warn the community dangers that is not faced in government tonight?
This is a very important point, brother brought up, alhamdulillah. That is the fact that Naml, the Qur'an says Naml, which means female. The majority of ants are females. So the females are all over the place. And you know what also? That means the female can lift 50 times her weight. So her husband better watch out. 50 times, she's a superwoman. And our sisters have super strength if we would but recognize this. One of the areas that I have spent much time in research is Islamic history, and especially Asiratul Nabawiyya, the prophetic biography. And you go back to the first generation and you will see who was instrumental. The first person to embrace Islam, Khadija radiallahu anha, is a woman. The first person to die, Shaheed Sumayya radiallahu anha, is a woman. The second most hadith collected, Aisha radiallahu anha, is a woman. And you'll see women involved in activities, in many activities. We even studied a sister and look her up, her name is Nusayba radiallahu anha. And in the Battle of Uhud, women came to the battle. They weren't the front lines, they were auxiliary, but they were part of the battle core. And when the front line broke down and confusion was there, you say with them, when they said they had killed the Prophet, she protected the Prophet, peace be upon him, with her body. And had something like 17 arrows shot in her back, protecting Rasulullah. That's a woman. The abilities that they we are losing, that's part of our problem. If the masjids do not empower, if our community, we do not empower women, we are missing over 50%, 60% of our community. If you take out young people, then you're talking about 70, 80% of the Muslims. So what is that? And so it is important for us in a balanced way. We don't want to go into what they call feminism, because it's causing confusion in our countries. People confused about their gender identity, confused about everything. No, we want to be natural as Allah created us. But the Prophet ﷺ said, seeking knowledge is compulsory on all Muslims, male and female, everybody. The Quran, when it is speaking in plural, Hakim salat, Atu zakat, that means male and female, all the way through. So that's a good example that Surah Naml. Floor is open for any other questions. Yes.
And after the lecture is done, we all go home, we fall back into the same wrong without learning and implementing what we have learned from the lecture. So my question to the Shaykh is, after we have all understood, what advice do you have for us to be able to unite, to break the barriers that disunite us, and what could be implemented in the various commands, and more so the Islamic Dawah movement, what is the main point they can address so as to assist the unity rather than being in your own will. I was thinking one of the points is that there is not enough knowledge of the different schools of thought. And if we have to go about planning and executing a series of lectures for a long period of time to break this division of misunderstanding of the different schools of thought that was not disunite. For instance, we can't unite whether we can pray with a top thought or make matter of thought. Different schools of thought, one man will not go in front and pray behind another man because we have one hand. Make matter of it. But to break these things,
yes. Okay. Good question. So the idea is, what can we do? Think about what Sidi Ahmed Zahrou said. Our relationship with the Quran. Learn to read it with tajweed. Contemplate it. Don't just read real fast and go on. Think about what's in the verse. Read it tafsir. Read a translation. Think about it. And then put it into your life. It's more important to read 10 verses and put it in your life than to read 100. And you just continue. During this tour, inshallah, we will be talking about many different issues. One of them is making Islam relevant. This is where your question will come. What I can say based upon your question is that point that was made. It's about operational unity. That means all Jamaats come together. We are people of the Qibla. We're not going to get everybody, but come together for the major issues facing our community. This is so important for us to be able to do this. If there's differences, mashallah, we can agree to disagree. But operational unity means that you learn to work with somebody who's a little bit different than you. And that's the way the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, they were a little bit different than each other. They were not all the same. but they learned to come together, realizing the concept of the ummah, of the nation, putting that above themselves, their own petty ego, and their own petty. Floor is open for any other questions from anybody else. Floor is open.
Maybe a sister. Going on. Twice. Any other brother?
Go ahead. Question here. Okay. So the question is, last night I was on the Islamic State IBM, and there was a question. We said we challenged the people. I want you to Google it if you're a young person or like Google, share Google. Who is the richest man who ever lived? Is it Bill Gates? Right? Who is it? MashaAllah. Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa. This is a black African Muslim Amir who was the leader of the empire of Mali in West Africa. In 1324, he made pilgrimage to Mecca with 72,000 people. 1324. He had so much gold. This is below the Niger River. It was the biggest gold mine in the world. He changed the economy of every country that he reached. His older brother, Abu Bakr, wanted to travel in the ocean. He had the gold too. And so he went into the ocean with 2,000 ships. He left the coast of Senegal and he landed Brazil, Barbados. The current will take you right into these areas. And so some studies have been done to follow the Mandinka Muslims, Band-Aid Muslims. They traveled along the Amazon, Central America, they reached the United States. I have a book which some of you may have seen. It's called Deeper Roots. Deeper Roots. For those of you who are online, my website is called HakimQuick.com. HakimQuick.com. You can purchase the book online. We have a few copies of the book still here with my brother Reza. It's called Deeper Roots, and there all the traditions are in. We bring you the Arabic, we bring you the traditions, and you will see it in the deeper roots. But of course, the Western powers, they don't want you to believe that. They want you to believe that Christopher Columbus discovered America. Right? But he didn't discover America. He was discovered by the people because he was lost and he bumped into the Indies. He thought he was in India. He was lost. So we should say Columbus was discovered in 1492. See the difference in that? That's how we should rewrite history. It's called deconstruction of history. We need to be able to deconstruct information and not accept everything on its face. Now, question here. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, you know, to be honest with you, I don't want to go into the politics of people's names or people's countries, anything like that. I will say one thing, because I was in that area in Paris. And they said, you know, in Afghanistan, in places like this, if you're not inside the country, you don't really know what's happening. So don't listen to the press and what they tell you that's going on, unless you can go inside and really see what's going on inside. And so I'm not going to make I'm not inside there to know the actual situation. Of course, women should be educated. Of course. Prophet said it's compulsory on everybody, females. If you're a person of hadith, how can you read hadith with Aisha's name instead? You're going to cross her name off? She reported the second most hadiths after Abu Hurairah. So of course it is there. But we're not going to comment on situations with propaganda and deception and lies that are out there in the world today. You want to know what's happening? Go to the place and find them. Really. The other general questions or anybody else?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I want to make a suggestion. When moving forward, I think what we need to do when the organization and entity that proves, you need to put a kind of blanket statement. No big issues are to be discussed. Because big issues won't make it by the community. Shaitan has used the big issues to create division. These division become entrenched in our community. So we have the blanket statement about that. We can't remember to discuss whether it's a poverty, mental health issue, tax accidents, whatever, so on. So we're not discussing big issues. Once we have that understand, then we can get down to the nitty-gritty thing. It affects all of us, whether it's Maliki, Catholic, Shafi, whatever it is. If we do that, I think that's a good way of going forward.
So the intervention is that we should avoid one thing is fiqh. This is jurisprudence, school of law, some of the minor issues that are there. When I was in Medina, we studied in our fiqh class a great scholar, Ibn Rushd. He had a book called Bidayat al-Mujtahid, and so what it was, it's called fiqh al-Muqarrad, comparative fiqh. Because in our class, there was Maliki, Hanbali, Hanafi, Shafi, everybody. So we learned how to respect the other school of thought. And we learned that if there is something the Prophet ﷺ did, and it's in another school of thought, and it's Sunnah, there's nothing wrong with doing it. Because we're following Rasulullah ﷺ. Everybody should have a mother. We're naturally going to have the school of love, especially for your prayers. But there's nothing wrong with doing something that is certified by the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him. So we have to get away from the minor discussion of arguments and deal with the major issues. That is one key point for our leadership and for our communities. We will be continuing our lecture series. Maybe Brother Mirza can give you a little idea of some of the other discussions we're going to have. We will be having a discussion on Naml, which is the bees, and one which is online. You can come online, and that is al-ankabut, that's the spider. And then you learn about women, because the spider, I don't want to give it away, the big spider, right? Especially the black widow spider is female. And when the male comes to mate with her, if he's not bigger than her, she takes his life. She gets rid of him. She's an angry woman. A single mother. Jamaican here, baby mother. She's a single mother. She's angry. So we need to learn the opposite, how to establish a Muslim family. That's what we will be studying online. So it can be watched by people all the different jamaats inshallah. So I want to end my talk here and thank you for your patience. May Allah bless you now, bless this masjid, and help you to grow from strength to strength. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.